Mellissa Harris Perry has officially ended her relationship with MSNBC following a tense couple of weeks. Now, what I want to do is I want to go through the situation and then sort of give my analysis on the media, on MSNBC, and why they're actually no longer liberal. All right. Now, first, I want to start by saying that this whole thing started when MSNBC started shifting over to more hard news and election coverage. Now, the thing with Mellissa Harris Perry. Now, because of that, Ms. Harris Perry, well, her show was being preempted, right, in favor of election coverage. Now, I get that. I actually understand that decision. You have an election, you got to do some election coverage. I get it. Sometimes your show is going to get preempted. That sucks, but I'm sorry. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do, right? Now, that's not to say that I'm defending MSNBC here, and here's why. Apparently, when she was in Des Moines and Ari Melber was standing in her spot, basically hosting the show for her from New York, Ms. Harris Perry said that she basically felt like a guest on her own show. Remember, she was in Iowa. She was covering the election like she was told to do, and she was essentially a guest. Now, she wanted to host the show from Iowa, right, and do a lot of election coverage in a primary state. Now, that makes sense to me. But she was told by network executives that there were just not enough resources to do that. She's there, she's on the ground, there was a camera. I'm pretty sure you could cover election results on the ground if you have those. We have insufficient resources. We would rather have Ari Melber host it from New York. And look, I don't have a problem with him, but the executives kind of have a problem there. Seems a little strange. Now, if you want to do election coverage, it would be smart for someone to do it on the ground. They sent her there. Don't you guys want more election coverage? Doesn't make any sense. All right. Now, it gets worse. On the following week, on Super Bowl Sunday, she said she had planned to talk about the Beyonce thing, right? The Super Bowl performance, the new video, etc., right? You know what they told her? No. You got to focus on the election instead. Let's talk about the election. I mean, once again, I understand. You got to do election coverage, but at the same time, that video, that whole Beyonce thing, was kind of big news. Now, she did something ballsy and actually talked about the video anyway, which from a broadcasting point of view was a pretty good move. Millions, on YouTube, it got millions and millions of views. People were interested in that. But while she was doing that, there was a picture of Jeb Bush and Chris Christie rallies in New Hampshire that were in the corner, in a box in the corner. It's sort of a slap in the face. A little bit like, yeah, we know you want to do this thing. However, we're going to show Chris Christie and Jeb Bush. She was right. The network was wrong. Beyonce's coverage, the coverage of Beyonce, actually interested people way more than that loser Jeb Bush. No, come on, give me a break. I know, right? But see, that little move right there, it undermined her position. And that's frustrating. In fact, in an interview with the New York Times on Friday, Ms. Harris Perry said just that. Look, they're sidelining me on my own show. Quote, the branding was taken, the editorial control was taken, and I was no longer invited to host the show. That's how she felt. Now, of course, that frustration led to the email. Quote, I will not be used as a tool for their purposes. I'm not a token, mammy, or little brown bobblehead. I'm not owned by LAC, Griffin, or MSNBC. I love our show. I want it back. Now, I hate to break it to you, but that's not your show. I empathize with you, but it never was your show. Just like it was never Martin Bashir's show, or Cenk Uygur's show, or Dylan Ratigan's show. You get the idea. See, MSNBC and corporate media, they own that show. And as soon as they step out of line, or you step out of line, or go against the establishment too hard, or protest changes at the network, you're done. If you play ball, you get rewarded, like Joe Scarborough, who now has 4 hours of Morning Joe. But if you step out of line, if you're too hard on the establishment, you get shut down. They put you on weekends. If you're a progressive, they get rid of you. Now, I admit I would never make it onto corporate media, even if I wanted to, right? But see, I wouldn't want to anyway, because of exactly this reason. You don't own your show. Even if it has your name plastered all over it, that doesn't mean it's yours. Unless, of course, you build it separately. For example, Tom Hartman built his show separately. He's on RT. Does RT own that show? Hell no. It's Tom Hartman's show. Just like it's my show. Nobody owns it. Young Turks doesn't own it. I own it. I do the show. See, when you're on cable news or MSNBC or CNN, that show is is yours. It's not yours. It's subject to the whim of corporate executives, advertisers, and in MSNBC's case, the political establishment. Once again, it's for those reasons that I could never do that, even if I was offered, which, look, let's be honest, there's like a 0.0% chance of that happening. But even if it did, I wouldn't do it. And that would mean turning down millions of dollars. But that, compared to not being able to do the show that I want to do, well, I'd rather do the show that I want to do than get paid millions to do a show that I wouldn't. I mean, there are tons of jobs, lots of jobs that I could do for way more money than I'm making here. But I do this because I love it, not because of the money. And trust me, if I cared about making money, YouTube would not be the place to go. The amount you get from YouTube doesn't really pay anything, especially for the amount of work you have to put in to create a show. But anyway, enough about me, back onto Mellissa Harris Perry. Now, she wrote a final statement on this saying, quote, "While MSNBC may believe that I am worthless, I know better. I know who I am. I know why MHP show is unique and valuable. I will not sell short myself or the show. I'm not hungry for empty airtime. I care only about substantive, meaningful, and autonomous work. When we can do that, I will return. Not a moment earlier." Well, once again, it looks like she's not going back to MSNBC. And why? Well, it's because that network is no longer a place for substantive, meaningful, autonomous work. It's corporate news. Corporate news with an agenda to serve the establishment. Establishment Democrats. Mostly, with the exception of, once again, Joe Scarborough, who was an establishment Republican on what was the liberal network. But see, this is reflective of what I've been saying before. MSNBC is not a liberal network. And one by one, they've shown that by getting rid of their liberal hosts. Pretty much all you have left is Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes. That's it. Now with Mellissa Harris Perry gone. And look, I haven't always agreed with Mellissa Harris Perry. I've made fun of her teary apologies to Mitt Romney. I've vehemently disagreed with her on some of the issues that she raised. I mean, check out my Star Wars video. Okay, where she was saying that Vader is a bad guy because he's black. Most ridiculous piece of television. However, but on this, I'm actually on her side. I think she actually showed a lot of conviction to her principles by walking away from the establishment and refusing to play their bullshit game. So good on you, Mellissa Harris Perry. Do the show that you want to do, just do it somewhere else. That's all. That's the best advice that I could give. Do the kind of show that you want to do and stay away from corporate media because they all essentially suck.